There's times that I'll go in these rooms and I won't even say a word.
You ultimately end up building relationships on the things that are happening in your personal life.
There's no such thing as time blocking when you're building a business.
Just connecting with people on a personal level around the things that really matter.
Keep teaching yourself and pushing yourself to that limit because you can do it.
You're connecting with people, you're running with people, you're doing those types of things, and it translates to a lot of business success.
Because not everything is going to be for free. You just got to go there and show up.
What's up, everybody? Grant Wise. Welcome back to the Partner and Profit Podcast. Today, I get to have a conversation with one of my longest standing, dearest friends in the industry, somebody I've known for a very long time, done a ton of business with, Mr. Josue Soto. Some of his friends call him Josh. What up, Josue? How's it going, man? Thanks for being with me today.
Hey, Grant. Thank you so much for the invite. Looking forward to what exactly everyone's looking for, man. I'm excited, man. I'm glad to see that you're doing well, and thank you for the invite for sure.
Of course, man. Of course. For people that are listening that maybe don't know much about you, just give us a bit of the backstory. How did you guys get to where you are today?
Right now, this year, 2006, my wife and I, we run a partner team, and we just celebrated 20 years in the real estate industry. And if I look back to 20 years ago, it all started with basically connections, man. Being involved in the community, making sure you build your network. Because your net worth is your net worth. You know what I'm saying? That's how it's said to be. And we started with that, but when we came into this the real estate industry, it's crazy because this is when the market was in the downfall, and all these short sales and REOs are popping up. So we were able to dive into that, and it's something that I've learned. I always recommend, and I tell this to all the agents, that you have to try. You got to be open minded and educate yourself every single day. I've been in this industry 20 years, and I'm still learning every single day. I have to learn something new because if I'm not educating myself, I'm going to stay behind, especially the way the industry is just evolving in different ways. And honestly, that's how I was able to build my real estate business that way, just being involved, growing my network, and really, really dialing into my clients, and customer service is the most important. I always recommend that, man. You got to be very transparent in front of the people, and your follow-up game has to be amazing.
Well, I know the podcast is all about partnerships, relationships, but I think it's probably fitting to talk about your most important partnership with your wife. You guys have been in real estate together for a very long time. You've got the Married in Real Estate content series and business and stuff like that you guys run. Can you talk a little bit about what it's like to be in partnership with your wife, to grow a business, build the empire you guys are building?
It's about really understanding what are you strong at and what you're not strong at. You understand? I think a lot of times that, we as individuals, I'm more of a high D, visionary person. She's more of, she is a high D, but on the lower C level, and she's more of systems in place. So we learned a long time ago that even though, let me tell you, and I'm not trying to separate us because that's one thing we don't do. We don't separate our responsibilities. She's an amazing realtor, but her strong suit was more of growth and developing realtors in our industry and even just educating people. So we learned that about 10, 15, maybe about 10 years ago. We learned that, what? We have to find a way to make our team as a whole, you and I, that way we can be able to build this out. And we learned that, our strong suits really are. And I'm more of the production, follow up, building out that side of the business. And she's more of the education, the more of bringing on agents, interviewing them, making sure that we're preparing them the right way. So I think that I highly recommend that if you're ever looking at something, it doesn't have to be a husband and wife team. I think it can be any team members, Grant, that you really need to understand what your strong suit is and stick to that. I heard something the other day that made a lot of sense is that, you focus on Jesse Isler, someone that I follow a lot. He says he lives by the rule 100. And what that is basically if you focus on one discipline a day for 15, 18 minutes a day, that accumulates to 109 hours a year. So imagine you're in the top 95% of the USA right now as far as being ahead of everyone else on that particular discipline if you just focus on that every single day. And that's one thing that really resonated on me because it's something that being an avid runner, not only that, because I always see things both together, united, the business side and the health side, you understand? Because there's always some type of unity there. And that's where my wife and I see each other, man. We really look at things in perspective and understand that we had to take a step back to analyze what works for us and what doesn't work for us. And every single day you learn, because I always tell everyone, don't be afraid to fail. Failure brings prosperity. So if you're afraid to fail, you're going to fail. So it's always something that we always have to stay focused on, that it's going to happen. So one of the, like, going back to her and I, is our strong suits is that we understand what our strong suits are, and that's how we're able to build the network that we did with the Married in Real Estate. That's our brand. It's a brand that we built. We brought out 6 years ago. We wrote a book. We're actually on the process of completing our second book in the next couple of weeks. By the way, I'm glad.
That's
Thank you for
awesome.
bringing that up. So, and we have a Married in Real Estate podcast that's coming back into Fruit, and we're excited because you'll be surprised how many partners and couples are struggling with this, Grant. We've interviewed, I mean, multiple couples, and I think a lot of the pinpoints are duties. What duties do you have? And time blocking. And you and I both know there's no such thing as time blocking when you're building a business sometimes. Yes, there is, but in reality, it's not. And understanding how to separate the two, because when you're done with business, you got to be whole. You got to be able to separate that, come home, you got a family, you got kids, and not talk about business. So that's one of the things that we've seen that people like struggle with a lot, Grant. And honestly, I highly recommend that you really look into that more deeply within your partnership or your relationship, or whatever it is, because that's something that I've learned, we've learned, and we're still learning how to overcome. And that's where we're at.
Yeah, I love it. That's awesome. I would imagine, being in partnership with your wife, you guys have developed a ton of amazing relationships throughout the industry. You guys have a big network in the organization that you've got. You work with some very influential people. I always like to ask this question to all of my guests, and it's a little bit of a thinker. So if you got to take a second to think about it, that's fine. But how do I'm asking, like, you got to teach us, how do we turn our relationships into revenue?
I would say first, get to know that person, see what their goals are and what your goals is, and see if it works together. I think I learned a lot of being in this business is being able to leverage each other. See how I can help Grant and how Grant can help me get to where we want to go. And I think that's the biggest problem nowadays. That you need that collaboration. With collaboration, it says it. You can go somewhere by yourself, but if you can go together, you'll get there a lot faster. And it's
Yeah.
so true, because it's something that we live by. We rather work together with someone that's going to help us get where we want to go, but also help that person get where they want to go. And I think that it can't be one sided, Grant. You've known us for many years, and we're people of integrity. That's the most important part. You got to be a person of integrity, be a person of keeping your words, and the most important is you got to be able to get in the rooms. Those rooms that you feel like you don't get into, once you get into those rooms, you'll be able to see bigger things and bigger opportunities. And that's what we did.
How do you get into the right rooms?
Go there and just, you know what? One thing that I've learned from a lot of our mentors and our friends was, you know what? When they say no, you find a way to get in. That's how we did it.
Yeah.
I remember 7, 8 years ago, nine, almost 10 years ago, when I started with Nara. I never expected to get to the level that we're at. That's how I was able to grow my network, when I was able to get around individuals that were at a level where I was at or higher, that I was like, okay, this is where I want to be at. Because you have to be able to, if you want to scale something, you got to get around the people that is going to help you scale something. Or you want to become, and I tell everyone is like, you want to become the YouTube expert, align yourself with somebody that's that great in YouTube. Even if you got to hold that camera for them and do something, because not everything is going to be for free. You just got to go there and show up.
Why is that the play? This may sound like a silly question, but why, when you want to do something, should you get around people that are already doing it?
If you want to build that relationship, you got to make sure that they respect you. They want to feel like you're there for a reason, not just wanting to be there. You understand? Because I tell everyone, it's like, if I'm going to get you in this room, you got to get something out of this room. You hold that person accountable, because one thing I did was I had to get one or two big action items that I was going to be able to take back to my business. And the way you get into those rooms is you make sure you find a way and get there. I'm going to put you in front of, and I would always say this to a lot of my partners, like yourself and everyone else, is I'm going to put you in front of the people. It's your job to close them out. Am I right or wrong? You know, that's how I build my business, and this is how I expect it to be, because I think a lot of times is you can't go too far into helping individuals if they're not willing to take that step and do it by the. If you open the door for me, I'm running through it. I'm not walking through it. You understand? Because you already have to be very prepared to confront and have those questions and be open minded. And honestly, there's times that I'll go in these rooms and I won't even say a word. I'll just sit there and I just listen and write notes and write notes. Because a lot of times, great listeners become better leaders. And I learned this from John Maxwell. You know, one thing that I've learned is that I had to learn how to take a step back and be a student of the game. I see it instead of being the leader of the game. Because the best leaders of the games are actually better students. And that's one thing that I've learned, right?
Yeah. Can you tell me a story? So we're talking about getting in the right rooms. Do you remember like your own application of that? Tell me a story. What was the room you were trying to get in? How did you get into it? What did you get out of it whenever you did?
I think the biggest one was I remember, I want to say it was probably around 7, 8 years ago that I really wanted to meet John Sheplight, man. I wanted to get
Yeah,
in
yeah,
his
yeah.
room. I remember that it was about 7, 8 years ago. And I was like, man, this guy, he's up and coming. I mean, he was up there already. This is when John really put himself on the map. And I was like, I need to know what he was doing. I mean, his marketing strategies were ridiculous, and I mean, they were just amazing. And I said, I got to find a way. So I connected with the person that I know that was with coach with them, and I said, how can you get me that room? I don't care what I got to pay. They're like, no, I can get you into this. Once I got into that room, forget it. It's just about making sure that you're connected to the right people, Grant, because one thing that I noticed within our industry is you can't take a step back. You got to be two, 3, 4, 5 steps ahead of everyone else, And that's one thing that I did was I tried to find that person that can get me to where I want to go. You understand? Or if I've done someone a favor and I see something coming up, I'm like, hey, I'll pick up that phone and say, hey, how can you help me with this? And it's about we go back to building your network. If you're able to build your network, you're able to get in those rooms if you really want to. Because people that and you're working with individuals that know Grant, that know Josue, they're gonna feel comfortable, like, yeah, absolutely, I'll get you in there because you build those relationships already. Those relationships are not going to come to you. You got to be able to have that, build that respect. And it's not, and I don't mean just go up to people. I'm like, you know what? If you see someone that you admire, you see them in the hallway. And I remember, I'll tell you a quick story. Last year, I was in Cabo. I remember I went out for an 8 mile run and I came home. I came back to the hotel and I showered. And I was showering and I told Rebecca, I said, hey, my biggest goal today was to meet Gary Brecka. That's it. I love everyone here speaking, but what I need to get out of my chest, I need to talk to Gary about it. So she looked at me. She was like, okay. Just like that, Grant, I'm telling you. And I'll send you the video because it wasn't, I'm not joking. So it happened to be when Gary was speaking on stage. I mean, there was like 1,200, 1,500 people in the room. And he started touching on things that I was actually going personally through and I needed answers for because sometimes you know how it is. Medicine is not the way that it is. And with Gary is very different. So I wanted to dive deeper into what I was struggling with and understand how I can fix the problem, even more. So Gary finished speaking on stage. I step outside because I had a business call. I'm sitting literally outside the exit door. Guess who walks out?
Gary Brecka.
And I took advantage and I have almost a 30, 40 minute video just me interviewing Gary right there.
Wow.
And
That's
you
awesome.
gotta have strong beliefs, man. And he answered every one of my questions. He took the time to really, because I think the biggest fear that we all have is that we think these people are going to ignore us. No, they're there for a purpose. They're there to help you. They want to know. They want to know what you're feeling because that way they can see how they can help you. So we go back to getting in those rooms and finding a way and getting a way to get your questions answered. And that's what I did.
I think that's awesome. Gary's obviously a unique individual. Very, very, very smart. Has a lot of insight and expertise. I would love to see that video. You have to send it to me. When it comes to building community and developing relationships and strengthening bonds, one of the things that I know you love to do is I know you love to run. And so I'm curious, how has your desire to build a business and develop relationships and partnerships, how has that kind of commingled with running And the because you've gone from like not running at all to running, like now you're doing ultra marathons and stuff like that. So like how have those two things converged, and how has that helped you develop stronger relationships?
To me, I looked at it as they go hand in hand, Grant, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
You can have all the money in the world, but if your health is lacking, you understand one you can't have one or the other. You got to have both at that level where you want to go. And I'm telling you this by experience. You and I, we're great friends, so you know what I went through 4 or 5 years ago with my health. And after all that happened, I had to take the initiative and say, okay, I'll build a great business, but what is it going to do for me if something happens to me right now or my family? I have to make sure I kind of take care of my body. One thing that I did was I focused on what my strong suits were and what was I struggling with at that time. And a lot of it was I forgot, being an athlete all my life since I was 5 years old, I forgot what was important to me, Grant. And that was getting that time for you. And people don't understand that just like you need time for yourself, to kind of things through as far as any business strategies you're developing, running is the same way. Running actually brings me clarity. I mean, there are times that I can tell you this. I can be in my office and I'm having a kind of like a little rough day. I'll actually drive home, change my clothes, and go out for a 5 mile run, come back home, shower, and go back to the office because I just need that time to kind of clear my mind, to refocus and re energize myself and realign myself to get this business situation done. And that's the reason I would say they go hand in hand because when you think about it, you build a business to become successful, you run to become successful, not only for the glorifying part, but for you to be happy with yourself, your health, your family sees you different, people see you differently. Man, I built such a big community when I started this journey. I'm being honest with you. I have I can't even tell you how many people have followed me, man, since I started running, and I'm educating them. I'm teaching them. I mean, we have a team right now that we have a team here in our Central Florida team. We have 8 of us right now, and all of us, every one of us, have ran 60 miles or more, 100+ mile races, everything. And the last 2 years, by the way, this journey's only been. We just celebrated 3 years together, some of us. So it's something that it goes hand in hand for the simple fact that just like you build, you have to go through multiple steps to build successful business and follow steps. The same thing is it's with your health journey and the running journey too. You go, you have to find a way how to get to that 1 mile. Then you got to find a way how to get to the 3 mile marker, the 5 mile marker. So it's about building up and going and building your body to become who it is. And one thing that I admire the most was when I started this journey 3 years ago, I started following David Goggins. I mean, everyone knows who he is. But one of the things that he said was, once you get that half marathon under your belt, don't think you're going to stay at the half marathon. You're going to a marathon because you know why? You have to keep teaching yourself and pushing yourself to that limit because you can do it. And that's how business is, man, nowadays. Sometimes we get so aligned, and I find myself because I went through it, man. We all gone through it. That you feel like you're stagnant in some ways,
Yep.
You have to realign yourself again to get back into it. So that's why, to me, running has been such a blessing in my life because it's helped me realign myself with my business and see where I want to go, but also realign me as far as building my health. I mean, like you just said, I never in my life in 3 years. I used to be a running. I used to love running as a kid. Even playing professional baseball, but not the level that I'm at. I mean, at the age that I'm at, where I'm at right now, I can't believe what I'm doing. But it's the amount of work I put in because the same amount of work that I put into my business, I put into running a lot of hours a week. So that's how it
It's
is.
awesome. I can only imagine what type of relationships you develop when you go compete with people. And it's fascinating because you do that personally with something like running, but you compete with people in business too, right? And
Yeah, you'd
it's
be surprised. It's amazing, Grant. That's a great question because it is so true. I
yeah,
learned when I'm in these trail runs, you and your partners start together, but you separate eventually. So you're meeting all these other individuals from, I mean, I've met psychiatrists, pediatric surgeons. I mean, these people are like, and you're like, wow, what are you doing out here? But it's crazy because they went through what I'm going through the same way. So, I mean, I ran in New York City, and I remember it was like I had to wait around 2 hours prior to my corral being released. So I sat there, I'm not kidding you. I probably met more than like 30 professionals in different industries. We exchanged numbers. We're part of a group right now. And if I was around my other friends and all that, I would have probably never did that because you stick to what you feel comfortable with. And we go back to getting in those uncomfortable situations. So you go around and you start learning so much about people. And I remember one guy, he was a pediatric surgeon. Guy was probably in his 30s. Real nice guy. Met him on the bus, and we connected. He goes, "Hey, what corral you at?" I said, "I'm in B." He goes, "So am I. Let's take off together." We ran probably together for the last 10, 12 miles, the first 10, 12 miles together, 15 miles. And all we did was talk about family, kids, and we exchanged numbers. Until this day, we're still working together. But think about it. I'm building my network. You see what I'm saying? It's about really aligning yourself and getting because a lot of times you're focusing on the real estate, but yeah, real estate's not going to bring you that. You got to think the bigger picture. You got to think about investors. You got to think about investment groups. You got to think about that. These are the people that are going to get you into those rooms that where you want to go, so that's how it is.
100%. There's so many parallels. We all build relationships with people, and I think we all try so hard to build relationships based off of the thing that we do, which is,
Correct.
real estate or me with co-marketing or, investing or car sales or like whatever. And the reality is you ultimately end up building relationships on the things that are happening in your personal life,
Correct.
running, working out, eating right, finance, faith, just all of these different things. And so I think if people spent more time, just connecting with people on a personal level around the things that really matter, I think you'd be shocked at what kind of relationships that ultimately translates to in business. And you can make a lot of money doing that. Maybe that's not necessarily should that be the intent. Just go develop relationships with people, and I think you're amazed. There's this thing, I think it's called it's like the seven levels of separation. And it's the idea that we are all connected like throughout the globe by just like seven people. So like I know you, and then as a result, like all of these other people. So I know all of these other people through you. And it's just this like fascinating idea. I just think people probably make this stuff too hard. You go back to how you got started in the business, and like you're just connecting with people. You're connecting with people, you're running with people, you're doing those types of things, and it translates to a lot of business success.
It's so true what you just said because the seven levels of connection. I love that you said that because that's where Rebecca and I are out. I have agents in Dubai. I have agents in Spain. I have agents in Puerto Rico. I have agents in Dominican Republic, Mexico, Spain. I mean, we were just overseas. I mean, we were just in Europe last year in 2025 in June, and I got to meet some of my partners out there that are just crushing it out there. But here we go again. It's about being in front of those rooms and being able to build those relationships right now. Rebecca's getting calls from agents from almost all over the country trying to co-sponsor with her because we have those connections. We have a platform that we're able to offer these agents, educate them. And you're so right, man. It's like you gotta go in there. Don't go in there with a salesy heart. Go in there with a giving heart. I would say, man, just hear
It's a
them out.
central theme in all these
Yeah,
conversations. Just
man.
give,
You
just try
gotta
to help people.
correct. I mean, the more people you go out, if you go out there, you help more people, you will be blessed always. And that's how it is.
Yeah.
We've always lived our life that way. I will never change no matter what because this is who I am. I can be at a certain level in my life. I would never look down to anyone. I always respect from anyone from the bottom all the way to the top because they all have to be treated the same way. Doesn't matter.
Man, this has been a wonderful conversation as always. I always enjoy talking to you. We've done a lot of cool things together. I think one of the coolest things that we've done is our $100 tipping experiences. That's still one of the highlights of the endeavors that we've been on. I guess I just got one more question, and that is, how can we, as the listeners of the Partner and Profit podcast, partner with you? What's important to you right now? How can we help you grow?
You can help me grow with continue bringing me some referral friends. I'm always open minded to learning more about the business and looking for more partners. Man, I'm always very easy to go. I'm willing and open to get on my calendar and listen, hear you out. And like always, man, I'm always ready, man. I'm always ready to hear everything out, opportunities.
To make it a little clearer for people, what kind of partners are you looking for?
I'm always looking for title partners. I'm always looking for lending partners, title companies, home inspectors, real estate, roofing companies, anywhere. It doesn't even have to be in real estate.
Yeah,
Anything that you got to have, gifts, everything. I'm always open minded to hearing anyone out. If the opportunities seem right, we can partner anytime.
I love it. All right. Well, I'll make sure that we link up the ways that people can connect with you. So if they want to, they can reach out. I appreciate you spending some time with me today. And this has been an awesome conversation. As always, I appreciate you, dude.
Oh, thank you, Grant.
Yeah, yeah. All right. And thank you all for continuing to listen to the Partner Profit Podcast. This has been another epic conversation. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.